Today, we got another donated digital comic from a good friend, Sergeant Bats. This one is The Flash, annual number 2, guest starring Impulse. This is a first for Ash on Comics. I have never done a Flash comic. So, what did I think? Stay tuned. Alright, so welcome to Ash on Comics. I am, of course, Ash. And this is the first time I'm reviewing a Flash comic. This is an annual number 2. And I'm going to start off with saying right away, just for any new viewers, I'm not a huge knowledgeable person about DC Comics. DC Comics is something I've only recently become a fan of back in 2018. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, why should we even be watching you, Ash? It's like, well, I've been into comics, since the mid 80s. I do know some things about comics. I'm a comic fan, and the whole purpose of this channel really is just to discuss comics. It's not to teach you. I'm not some sort of comics expert, and you're going to walk away and go, oh, I've just been schooled in comics. Then this is for people who like comics like I do and wanted to just share the enthusiasm of the hobby and things that they like and dislike and, have a conversation. But I wanted to kind of throw out that disclaimer because it helps you kind of know where I'm coming from. There's a difference between someone who's going to read this book and, have a 30-year history of DC Comics and being a Flash fan, might have a different subjective reaction than someone like me who knows very little. So, you might be that 30-year-old Flash fan, and I just want you to know is when you're hearing things and you're just face palming if I get something horribly wrong or don't know something, you know why. And also, it doesn't take away any of the credibility of a review when someone, doesn't necessarily know the character, because every comic is someone's first comic. So getting into this, we have... The book starts off here with Impulse, Flash Jr. I believe this is Barry Allen's grandson. And he's zipping in. He's like, oh, yeah, can't wait to see my family. I've been gone so long, I wonder if they'll even recognize me. Yeah, of course they're going to recognize you because you look exactly the same. But, so he's back, and he's like, hello, fam, blah, 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 blah. He's been gone so long that apparently... they've been saying fam. There's a writer mistake here. How long has he been gone? How long have they been saying the word fam? Yeah. That doesn't work that way. So, I thought this was kind of a touching moment. So, he's like, where are you, fam? Looking around. And then we cut to this somber scene of the Trinity right here. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. The old Clark farmhouse, and Flash holding the suit of Wally West and the breeze. You can the artist did a good job here of conveying that there's like a breeze going on. I could really kind of feel that this is a really good shot, and I have to say, as someone who has been reading Heroes in Crisis, a lot of complaints about it, a lot of complaints. I'm one of the few detractors who have been trying to be positive about the book. I have enjoyed it for the most part. It started off really strong, and then it's kind of one of the problems I had with the book was that you killed Wally West. Wally West is sort of responsible for the rebirth era of DC Comics. That's where I get into DC Comics. I kind of start my knowledge there. Rebirth, they made a comic called just Rebirth, and then spun off all the titles from there. And it's his return back from the Speed Force. And it was a really epic story. I think it was actually in Flash Rebirth. Each comic had their own little Rebirth comic, too. It was a really good story, even though I didn't know much. I was like, oh. And they just killed him in this Heroes in Crisis storyline, spoiler. But they did it off camera, which is kind of a cardinal sin. First of all, Rebirth is only a couple years old. And I don't think the character who's been gone for like 15 years or what, I don't know, he's been gone for a long time, maybe not 15. He's been gone for quite a while, and he's like, oh, the big epic story to bring him back. And then it's like, oh yeah, he's just dead off camera. You just don't do that. Like, sometimes characters need to die off, and DC, Lord knows, and he has enough characters that they need to purge. And maybe Wally West was one of them, but this was not the way to do it. And one thing I have to just say right off the bat, this annual is a must, in my opinion, to read the Crisis series. They should have marketed this as a spin-off, like, because of this story. This whole story is sort of like Barry's grieving about Wally dying, which is another thing that I really have a problem with in the Heroes in Crisis, is that Wally's dead and everyone just sort of like moves on. Like, it's like, not only does he not die on camera, he's just, they find him that he's dead, and it's like, oh, Wally's dead. There's just, they don't deal with it. It kind of feels like the Star Wars movies. It's like, oh, Han Solo's dead, okay, move on. Like, there's no funeral. There's just, what? Like, what? So, we get here, you know, his remembering. It's like, gee, slow down, Wally, you're trying to race me? And he's holding it, just so his memories. And then he just can't have it. He gets emotional and zips off. And I hate when it does that. And then the clothes are like floating in the air, and Superman catch him. Batman, should we go after? Let him go, Superman. Part of my last conversation with Wally before Superman and Wonder Woman took him to the Sanctuary keep replaying in my head. We'll make sure he's taken care of at Sanctuary, Barry. If anything happens to him, you're answering to me, understand? It'll be okay, Aunt Iris. So, this was weird to me. Like, why would anyone think he wouldn't be okay at Sanctuary? First of all, he's a superhero. Why would he be less safe here than anywhere else? And also, shouldn't he be able to take care of himself? Like, he's not some precious, like, snowflake who's just going to die at any, like, it just seems weird to people, like, be worried, like, oh, you're going to, like, I don't know. I guess it's for the storytelling, but as an editor, I would just be like, no. That doesn't make sense. But moving on. So Barry is running, and he gets into the Speed Force, and he's like, Wally. He's looking around, Wally. And then he's like, Barry, what? Wally? And he's tears. What's going on? Boom! Too Many Speedsters by Joshua Williamson, and Scott. Is that Collins? He just gets smacked. Now, I don't know who this character is. Turns out his name is Godspeed. He's a Flash villain. He's also a speedster. He's got a kick-ass name, and I like the look. I like the white. I've never heard of this guy, but already I'm like liking him more than Reverse Flash. Like, who came up with Reverse Flash? Oh, that's a DC thing. They always make dumb names. Godspeed would be like more of a Marvel name. Godspeed, how are you inside the Speed Force? Blah, blah. And he's like, you know, you won't understand what's going on. And I'm da-da-da-da. It turns out, you know, because Godspeed's a villain, but he's trying to, I'm really a hero. And Barry's like, no, I thought you wanted, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's this conflict. Meanwhile, we got Impulse looking for his friends. We got other Flash people. I guess one of them's in jail for some reason. I don't know why. And he's like hunting down all the speedsters. Now he's got this gauntlet, which is from something else in Flash history that I'm not knowledgeable about. But Flash has been trying to chase him down, and he uses his electric powers. Okay. He zots him. And what he's doing is he's touching everybody or hitting them or something with the gauntlet to sort of collect either genetic matter or Speed Force power or whatever. And then I thought this was kind of interesting. So he's basically beating everyone. And he looks down at Barry after he beats him. He's like, I'm sorry for your loss. Boss, you listening? I'm done. Mission complete. I need you to pick me up. Hear me? There are no more... He's like, there are no more speedsters left for me to collect from. And then, who are you, dude? And a smack. I guess you didn't think about one speedster that he's just like, ba-bam, ba-bam, just like, I forget what this is called when you hit their ears like that. There's a bell, no, I what it is. There's a term for that. And he's just whooping. Like, dude, I didn't know Impulse was so badass. He's like, you're not the Flash. And he's like, oh, you're some new sort of sidekick. Da, 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 da. And he goes after him. You miss me? And then he hears from his benefactor, Godspeed, you are not ready for that speedster. Enter the Speed Force now. He's like, oh, there you are. You didn't tell me about this annoying kid. So he goes and leaves. Meanwhile, Bart's just like, oh, okay, whatever. And he goes back. It's the Flash. And, meanwhile, back at Star Labs. So, they get all the different flashes. There's just too many to count, by the way. I've had long arguments with my pal, Sergeant Bats, about this, but I just do not like just all these legacy. It's just too many. Like one or two. Like, who's this girl? I'm sure. And I know you Flash fans are just like, shut up, Ash. Like, well, this person's this and this person, like, I all know the legacy. But as a new person, I'm just like, what? What? I can't. There's too many Flashes. And they give him some grief. Wallace here, who's Wally West Part 2. This is another big DC mess up. They made 2 Wally Wests. But so now, I guess they can call him Wally now that the other Wally's dead. But they call him Wallace, I guess, because that's a more black name. Whatever. So does Iris know about Wally yet? He's like, because they're like, he's giving him some lip, which is a really good thing to do to your, father figure. Like, I'm just gonna, whatever. That's disrespectful. I knew it. You can't help yourself. Still keeping secrets, no matter who it hurts. You never change, Barry. That's a Flash fact. And he's just like, oh, I've been scolded by this kid. So he zips off and he goes and he tells Iris. And he's like, I recognize that sound of thunder. You're almost... And then time stops. And he's like, time slows down because I want to live in this moment forever. In the moment before I have to tell her what happened to Wally. This was pretty cool. As a newbie, I didn't realize that he could do it, but it kind of makes sense, right? He's like so fast that all of this is happening in like a mere second of time that it's just... he's moving through all, time fast, super fast. I mean, that's just really cool. So he gets to have all this debate in his head, this internal monologue. He's like, I have no choice, da-da-da. And she's like, home, finally, you ready to talk about what's going on with your... And she's like, oops. And it plate crashes. And she's like, I'm sorry. And now she's in denial. About the dish, it's okay. Normally you'd rush to get the... Da-da-da. No, Iris, there's something that's bad happened at Sanctuary. Wally, he... No. No! We just got him back, Barry. You need to do something. What? And so I loved what was happening in the comics here. And she's just beating on him and stuff. And, I know that people like you and Wally and your friends die and come back. I've seen it. Don't even try to deny it. And you can just see the manic, hysteria in her face. And, the sadness in Barry. And I'm sorry, Iris. And she's stabbing him. You can come back too. He did it once. He'll do it again. And he's just like, this isn't like that. I saw him. And she's just pounding. And reading this, I mean, I hear I'm talking to you about it. You're not able to get into the immersion yourself. But this was a very emotional part of the comic. I was like, wow, this is very powerful. It's like, then you find out who did this. And you kill them. Just look at that. I mean, she's just... Oh, this is a woman who's lost her son. Like, holy shit. And he's just like, what? You don't mean that? Because, DC characters, of course, like, I know. I know. And then my Wally. And this was just very emotional. And kudos. Joshua Williamson and the artist whose name I already forgot. I'm sorry, I'm not good with names. But that was great for me. I was reading the comic, and I'm not emotionally invested in these characters like a lot of fans are, but I really felt that moment. just, yeah, very. I mean, doing this emotion this is things that comics aren't normally good at, right? Comics are really good for big animation, like not, action shots and just action in general. It's not really good at emotional drama. So this is a big challenge, and I was sold completely. And more importantly, going back to Heroes in Crisis, this is what Heroes in Crisis needed. It needed these couple of pages. This should have been, Tom King should have wrote this part. This should have been in there. You should have felt Wally's loss more for that story, which is why I'm saying that this book is kind of a needed thing. You should read Heroes in Crisis, like issue 1, and then read this, and then issues 2, 3, 4. I think that would be the right order. Yeah. So, anyways, we cut to the Flash Museum, because DC heroes have monuments to themselves. And here we get Bart looking for his family. Figures they'd be hanging out at the museum. I don't know. Yeah, so we move along, and we have an epilogue now. Sorry, that was the first epilogue, was Bart here. And there's a lot of text here, which is probably meaningful to people following the Flash story. I'm not going to spoil it all for you. The second epilogue is more important to this particular thing, where we get Godspeed coming back. He's like, I did what you asked. I betrayed the Flash. I hated that. So we kind of get this sense of like, he's actually is a kind of a good guy. Now he's doing this for a certain reason. And he's like, you told him you were sorry for his loss. Why? So you were listening in. I only met Wally West that one time, but I know he meant a lot to Barry. I can't imagine what kind of pain he's in. And then I rush in and twist the knife. Didn't sit right with me to say nothing. This better all be worth it. It will be, Godspeed. You have seen how much the Flashes have hurt the time stream, yada, yada, yada. So this mysterious guy is, I guess, convinced him he's going to fix the time stream, and the Flash is the enemies of it, and whatever, blah, blah. So he's got this gauntlet that allows Godspeed to enter the Speed Force at will. And he takes off. He's got these samples, and he turns them in. He's like, good, the Flash family will pay for what they did to me, what they did to my family, and by the time I'm finished, there will be no more speedsters. Now, some Flash fans may be looking at this and go, oh, I know who that is. I have no idea who this is. So to me, it's just like some mysterious villain guy. But I thought this was really, really cool story. And it's his way comics, it's very traditional, like builds up to something big. And it's like, no, stay tuned, cliffhanger ending, to be continued in The Flash throughout 2019. Look at this terrible. The future of the fourth world is female Furies. Barf. Oh, God. Oh, sorry. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Oh. All right. So, I'm going to keep it on this last page here. I really enjoyed this book. I wisecracked about it throughout the review a couple times, but that's ticky-tacky. Overall, this was a very fun read, very emotional. I mean, gets props for that. And like I said, it's tie-in to Heroes in Crisis, which I'm enjoying. Really, this book makes that series better because it adds emotional impact, but it also points out some of the flaws in that series. Is like, it's missing what you're seeing here on the page. Like, this should have been in that story. You shouldn't have to read secondary comics to get. The other thing, just to critique this, is because this is an annual. I normally don't buy annuals because annuals, especially in today's day and age, are just like these filler fluff issues that just don't have anything to do with anything. They take place in the continuity, but they're usually just some one-off story that's just meaningless. You don't need it at all. It's usually got secondary artists, or some fill-in writer. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I buy the ongoing run and the continuing stories, but this annual is like obviously part of the story, or at least starting off the next arc for this year. So I'm kind of hung up on this because I want annuals to be special. I come from a day and age where you bought an annual because they put, like a really special artist on, like Art Adams, who just never draws comics. He'll mostly do covers, but you might be able to get like, oh my gosh, he did a whole comic. And it's one of my favorite artists of all time. So you could get something really special in an annual. But today's days annuals are just like they're throwaway and they cost more. And they're not related, so you don't need to get them. But here you kind of do, and so this is throwing me off because I'm not used to that. Like, oh, I'm actually missing the story. What? Why is this in an annual? Why isn't this just within the normal run of the comics? So I don't know how to feel about that. Maybe you guys can tell me how you feel. In the comments. Like, do you care if annuals are part of the ongoing story? And if so, why even have it as an annual? Just have it in the normal run. That's not really a fault of the book itself as far as its value to buy. That's just my thinking out loud and principles of how I think annuals should be. It doesn't really make this book more or less worth it. This is a good buy. And if you are a Flash fan, I think you need to get this. So if you collect the series, don't skip it because it is part of the continuity and the storyline. And if you're reading Crisis, if you're not a Flash fan, but you're reading the Crisis, this book really enhances that storyline. Really good. Really well done. This is a big recommend for me. This is going to make me want to check more Flash out, which is what comics should do, right? You should pick up an issue, read it, and go, oh, I want to read more of this. So 2 thumbs up. Move the needle if you're still doing that. Post it up. If you get this book, Move the Needle. Credit, the writers, DC Comics. You connect me to it, Ash1138. Show people what we're buying and what we like and what we want more of. And thank you so much for watching.